Well, welcome back, folks. We are going to continue on into chemistry today by focusing on really the big unit here is molecular structure and really about covalently bonded compounds and how do they look, what are their shapes, how does that determine the characteristics of these chemicals, and how do they interact with other chemicals. So that's our big focus for this unit. We're going to first start with something really basic, which is the element dot notation. We'll utilize these skills moving forward, so make sure you pay close attention and make sure you're ready to rock and roll. The learning targets for this particular video, you will be able to understand how to draw basic Lewis dot structures for atoms and explain the symbolism behind the Lewis dot structures. So remember, we are building visual representations of atoms. We're taking a look at what they have in terms of the number of valence electrons, as well as eventually how they chemically bond, their shapes, and how that dictates their behavior with other atoms and molecules in a solution or mixture. There's one key vocabulary term for this particular video, and that is over Lewis structure. So what is a Lewis structure? Well, it is a visual representation of the structure of an atom or molecule, where the symbols represent elements, so for example, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The dots represent lone electrons, and then the lines represent pairs of electrons shared in a covalent bond. So as you can see here, we have a wide mixture here. We have a carbon atom that is chemically bonded to three other atoms, two hydrogens and an oxygen. The carbon and oxygen have a double bond, and the oxygen has 4 valence electrons that are located on the outer part of the oxygen atom. So there's a lot of information that we can get from this particular structure. But how do we make them, and how do we draw them? Well, to start off with, for an atom, the dots are representative of valence electrons that are present. So we start at a side and we add extra dots clockwise around each compass point. If we have 5 or more, we just double them up. So for example, hydrogen here, we started at the top. And as you can see, we've got 1 dot for that hydrogen, which represents 1 valence electron. And you can figure that information out by looking at the periodic table. Hopefully you remember that in the first group there's 1 valence electron, in the second group there's 2, going across to the aluminum group, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, until you get to the noble gases, which have 8 valence electrons in their outer shell. So if we get 5 or more, we double up those dots. So if I look at oxygen, oxygen has 6 valence electrons, although here what we did is we started on the right hand side, we went around clockwise once, and we have 2 extra electrons on the one on the right and the one on the bottom. So this is actually pretty easy to do. We just need to determine the number of valence electrons and then add dots on the outside going clockwise until we get to the appropriate amount of valence electrons. So how do we do this? Again, it's pretty straightforward here. The question is asking, draw out the Lewis structure for hydrogen, fluorine, sulfur, and phosphorus. So we need to do 4 different problems here. Let's draw out hydrogen. So the first thing we do is draw the symbol, which is H. Hydrogen has 1 valence electron, so I'm going to add a single dot to the top. Whew, hard stuff, I'm telling you. Alright, next one is fluorine, so we're going to draw fluorine. Now fluorine has 7 valence electrons, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, I know, tough stuff here. Ooh, sulfur, that's going to be tricky. If we look on the periodic table, we find that sulfur has 6 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the last bit, phosphorus. Phosphorus has 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. As I said, tough stuff, but I don't think you'll have any problems with this. But keep these things in mind as we start moving forward and start thinking about Lewis structures, which is what we're going to look at in our next video. I know these are your favorite kind of videos, folks, ones that are short, sweet, and to the point, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But please do keep in mind that Lewis structures are visual representations of the structure of an atom or molecule, where the symbols represent elements, dots represent electrons, and lines represent pairs of electrons shared in a covalent bond. Speaking of that, the word of the video here is going to be symbols. The word is symbols. Be sure to write that down in your video notes. Hopefully you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in this video, and as always, if you have questions, feel free to let me know. We'll talk to you later, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.